Hello, it's me, Jessica Viva, and obviously you guys saw the title, and before I start this video off, I just want to say that I'm not trying to offend anyone.
So this may be a controversial topic, but I want to talk about K-pop idols being uneducated.
So if you guys have seen my videos before, you would know that I use fan cams instead of just talking over pictures, just because I think it's just kind of boring if you just talk over pictures all the time. So I'm just letting you guys know that all the idols that I use in these fan cams, I'm not shading them, I'm not calling them out, I'm just using them because I think they're cute.
While I will be using examples of idols and K-pop groups, I will not be really focusing on them. This video is more about the bigger picture, if that makes sense. So what I wanted to kind of talk about is almost double standards. Now, we can all admit that there are no K-pop idols that are truly perfect, and a lot of them have said some really ignorant stuff. And most of this comes down to being uneducated and having a different ideology that us Westerners have. Now, while I do not agree with problematic comments, I do think that a different ideology in Asia is a reasonable and understandable excuse, for lack of a better word, for why some idols say ignorant things. So are ignorant comments really acceptable in 2019? Of course not, because girl, it's 2019. But for me, if a comment comes out of being uneducated and just being ignorant and growing up in a different ideology that Westerners have, I know I'm being very vague here, but I hope you guys can understand. I can see that certain comments come out of ignorance and not maliciousness, and even though the comments are maybe disgusting or whatever, they don't really come from a negative place. They just think it's okay to say that because of how they've grown up. And what I said just now is what a lot of people will say when their idols make a problematic comment, because usually most of the time I will give them the benefit of the doubt. If they are uneducated, then they are uneducated, and it's not really their fault if they're uneducated. It is in a perfect world they would get educated, but we just know how shitty the K-pop industry is. So what really annoys me, and this is the main thing that I wanted to say, is that people will pick and choose to use this. So for example, you can call me biased, I don't care, but this is the only main example that I primarily know and know a lot about, so I can talk about. But when Nancy made her comment about eating disorders, which was not okay, which I still don't agree with, people would be so quick to witch hunt her and cancel her. But honestly, she was raised in Korea, and there is evidence of that for the people who keep saying she isn't. She was raised in Korea. And just like how other people say, oh, well, my fave is uneducated and they lived in Korea, so they don't really have the same ideals and ideologies. You know, things are just different there, and they think it's okay to say that. But when Nancy says something that's problematic, suddenly it's not valid, and that excuse isn't valid, and that she should know better, even though she was raised in Korea just like the other idols that they're sticking up for. And it's not just Nancy that gets this double standard either. I believe Mamamoo get it as well. While you guys know, in my last video I said I don't really like them as people, but I do believe on the blackface thing they were uneducated. Do I think it's okay, the blackface thing? No. But do I think they were uneducated? Yes. But for me, now correct me if I'm wrong here, what's really annoying, and a boy group is uneducated, they just get forgiven because, oh, they're uneducated and Korea's just like that. But the excuse is automatically invalid if it's a girl group, and that really irritates me. So for me, if you want to use the excuse that these idols live in a place where we don't have the same ideologies and ideas that we in the West do, then it applies to every idol that is applicable for that excuse. You can't just be picky and choosy, and that's what really annoys me. If you're going to cancel one idol for doing one thing, then cancel all of them, because it's not fair. And I guess you could just say I'm like a feminist queen. But anyways, I'm using the word excuse very loosely because I don't really know a better term for it, because I'm just stupid and I dropped out of school. But I think that it's not really applicable to idols who have grown up in the West and they have studied in the West, or they have lived in the West their entire life. I don't think it's really you just can't use that excuse if they have lived in a place where the ideology is kind of more socially aware. And obviously I'm not trying to shit on the Korean culture or Asian culture in general. I'm just saying all of this stuff based off my experiences of living in Asia and just being half Asian myself. Obviously I'm not full Asian, so I will never
fully understand what it's like to be full Asian, but I'm just speaking from experience, and I've actually reached out to a few people who are Korean and I've asked them about this. Like, I can give you their like ats below if you want to like ask them questions about what it's like in Korea. Just don't bombard them, please, but I can drop their ats below. So obviously I have tried doing as much research as I can. I've been looking through Twitter to have a look at other people's opinions, and I've been getting opinions from Koreans themselves, and also just from my own experience of living in Asia and having studied in Asia just for a little bit. I did experience and see just a lot of ignorance and just a lot of maybe uneducated ideologies, if that makes sense. Like, for example, my mum had to explain what racism was to her sisters, and they're all like 40 plus years old and they didn't really understand the concept of racism. And when I was in school, there was one kid who was a bit slightly more tan than the others, and they would call him the N-word as a joke, and they all thought this was okay. Like, obviously, I'm not saying all of Asia replicates this behavior. Don't take it like that way, but for me, just from my own experience of living in Asia, I can agree with the idea that idols say things because they are uneducated and that their comments don't come from maliciousness. Obviously, not every idol is applicable to this, but for the majority of idol scandals, I do feel like this is the case. I'm not going to name every single one of them, but if you guys can think of one, comment on it, and if the shoe fits, then it fits. Now, you can agree with me or disagree, but the only thing I want you to take away from this video is that I actually tried my best to do research, and I swear I'm not some little white girl who listened to EXO once and says she knows the entire of Korea. It's not like that. I'm just trying to speak from my own experiences and from things that I hear from other people. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing what I had to say, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions on this in the comments like I always do. I try to reply, I try to read them, but you know, I'm just but to summarize in a few words, I want the double standards to end, and that's it. Treat girl groups equally, treat boy groups just the same as girl groups, you know. we're equality queens here, and stand Taeyeon, and I'll see you guys later. Kiss kiss, bye.